The High Court of Zimbabwe has acquitted opposition Transform Zimbabwe party leader, that is Jacob Ngarivhume, on charges of inciting public violence after calling for nationwide anti-government protests in July 2020. And we are pleased to let you know that Jacob Ngarivhume is right here on air with us to talk more about his incarceration and what the High Court verdict means for him. Jacob, thank you so much for joining us. It's nice to have you around.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
So let's start this way. What evidence did the state present to support the claim of a strong case against you? Were there any significant flaws or inconsistencies in the evidence that were presented?
Thank you very much for having me. Let me say, in 2020, when I was arrested for inciting public violence, we were very consistent that there was no evidence against me. And in fact, there was no evidence because the crime had not been committed. And when we went for trial at the Magistrate Court, they could not present any evidence linking me to the Twitter account that they alleged was used for the commitment of the offense. And then they relied on Section 257, which basically said that if I had not told the police that I did not own that Twitter account, then it was used against me to convict me. When in fact, no Twitter account was mentioned when they charged me. So basically, there was no evidence presented and submitted during trial to pin me to that specific case.
So that would mean that the defense team did not face any challenge during the trial process.
They did, but the magistrate actually went on to ignore our evidence, and she just charged me. It was clearly, the conviction was clearly politically motivated. And of course, they then took it to the High Court, a higher court than the magistrates which convicted me. And I was then subsequently acquitted after serving 8 months.
So I'd like to find out, what impact has this case had on the broader political climate in Zimbabwe, particularly in terms of the government's relationship with the opposition?
What it has done is to show and expose the government's attitude towards the opposition in Zimbabwe. Our government has been blind to the justice system. They've captured it, they manipulate it, and they use it as a tool to punish members of the opposition in Zimbabwe. And that's what typically they did. And the broader opposition movement in this country has continued to suffer under that behavior from the state. And it's so unfortunate. But what it has also done is it has strengthened us to be very much aware that the judiciary is captured. That point is not very clear in this country, that if you belong to the opposition, the judiciary is captured and judgments are basically against you.
So are there measures probably by civil society organizations, the opposition, or the arms of government, most especially the judiciary, to deal with issues of gagging opposition when it comes to speaking their minds or trying to do anything that would help them achieve balance within electoral processes in the country? Are there any measures that you think can be brought into place to address these issues?
Absolutely. We have to find ways to deal with it. And remember, the laws are made in the legislature. Basically, the law and concept of separation of power is that you have the executive, you have the judiciary, and you have the legislature. Now, these laws are made in the legislature by the parliamentarians. But again, in the parliamentary division, this is where you also have parliamentarians being recalled and procedurally, and opposition MPs are recalled from parliament and persecuted, and you know, by-elections are held, which subsequently are marred with violence. And what the ruling party is trying to do is to consolidate further its gain and grip on the legislature. So it means that even as we fight the judiciary and trying to make sure that the capture of the judiciary is dealt with, we also know that there is even further attack on the legislature itself. But you would then expect the legislature to be dealing with the issues to do with the judiciary. So I think at this stage, we are looking at a situation where we need extrajudicial measures to make sure that we deal with the current problems we have. There are organizations, of course, that are trying to push and do some advocacy, which is all welcome. But eventually, we need a political solution to the challenges that we have in this country. Because what we have is an outrageous executive which is not prepared to listen to any rule of law and abide by it. And that's basically the problem we have. So it's not all over.
All right, Jacob Ngarivhume, thank you so much for talking to us.
Appreciate it. Thank you.